think, I think everyone is on a quest to figure out, what are we doing here? Why are we here? And what are we doing here? I know I am. I mean, and at some point in your life, if you haven't gone on that quest, you'll get to that quest, because no matter what things happen in your life, where you go, how much you have, how much you don't have, you get to a point where it's like, well, what is it? What are we all doing on this rock of, that's just kind of spinning through space, and we were born into and then exit, and like the meaning of life, I guess, is always, I've been taught to give life meaning. But what is the greater, bigger thing, and I don't know if we can ever get to the bottom of it. So it's like peeling away onions, layers to an onion.
Yeah, I love that. Is it okay if we start with that, Peter?
Yeah, I thought we were recording, so we could.
It's recording, but it's like it's
Hey.
kind of starts when we say start. So I think that's
Yeah.
a beautiful start. I want to introduce our wonderful guest to the listener. We have Peter Facinelli.
Woo!
I have to say, Peter, and I'm just being perfectly candid here because that's my style. You are literally, and this is like the most excited I've ever been to do an episode. I'm not
Well,
capping.
don't tell Brad Payton that.
Well,
let's do a little back history here. I was just with you and Brad Payton a week ago. Brad Payton's a good friend of mine, and my cousin Dax Ravina, who I think is going to do your show soon.
He's booked.
And yeah, and we had a lovely time with you guys, and got to skywatch, and your family was so kind, and now I feel like we're all part of the same family, and it was what a wonderful experience that we had. So thank you for that, and thank you for your family for that, and I'm excited too. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, like I told you, you're part of the family now. I think it's very obvious to the listener, your background, but just to give for people who are listening, Peter is an actor. He has been in a number of amazing movies. I'm sure they'll obviously immediately recognize Twilight. And I have to be honest with you, my wife and I just binged all 5.
Oh, you finished? You got all the way? Okay.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And so my brain is spinning right now with that, but it was just for fun.
You just saw him get his head cut off.
Well,
spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Sorry. The movie's
only been like 12, 15 years.
Right.
Yeah, but no, you're right, man. I don't want Brad to hear that. I was very excited for that episode too, but this feels a little different because we were supposed to do it in person, and then you went home, and I felt the sinking feeling in my gut, like, oh, we ran out of time. What if I missed the mark? And you've been kind, you've been gracious with your time. You still came and did it. That means a lot to us. So anyway, without further ado,
I'm excited. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So something that I think would be, we talked about this at some point. I would love to get into an Unbreakable Boy, but maybe we can save that for a little bit. I want to talk about, and you guys might not know about this, but he has a movie coming out next month.
I know. Yeah. We talked about it.
Basically was like one of the key people of getting it out there.
That's awesome.
And I'll let him.
I was a producer on it, and I found the book and was able to shepherd it to Lionsgate. Lionsgate, we were able to make it, and now it comes out. So, but we'll get into all of that after. We'll get into that after.
I want to start with you, man. I was talking with Jenny this morning, and I was like, what would be really cool? She was like, you need to think about this and this and this. And I was like, no, you know what I want to know and what I think the listener would love to know? I'm curious, Peter, when the spiritual journey began for you, because spending 72 hours with you, it's very clear that you are an earnest seeker. And I kind of got a little giggle out of some of the things you said, because in my mind, I was so, oh my God, I'm meeting, Peter. I've seen you in all these movies growing up. And I'm like, what's he going to be like? I didn't know you were coming for 2 weeks, right? Like 2 weeks before you came, it was like, whoa, this is really fast. And I had this expectation. And then I met you, and you're like this down to earth, like, dude, like the galaxies and the universe are like our consciousness, man. And he was just saying all these things over the 3 days. That's like the things that we say. And I kind of had this giggle in my mind, like, oh, okay, so you're for real. You're really for real. And we're talking about the pyramids. So anyway, so what I'm curious about is like how this spiritual journey began for you. Have you always been this way? Is it a more recent thing?
I mean, I grew up Catholic, so I grew up with some religion. I would say I'm more spiritual than religious. But I think I've always felt like there was a connection to some outer source of something, and when you're talking to it, it's listening, and it sometimes downloads things to you, and and so having that this thing to be able to connect with, then you start to wonder, well, where is it coming from? Where how does it all work? And so I think I've always innately had it. I mean, I've read so many books on different religions and different things, and you think you have it in your hand, and then it kind of falls out like sand. And I'm reading Tom Campbell's My Big Toe right now, and I don't know if you read it, but it's a fascinating take on consciousness and where we're, how consciousness works. And he doesn't claim to have all the answers. He claims to have, this is his dogma, and we're allowed our dogma. But there's a lot of things that resonate, and a lot of things that I feel like, oh, I think I understand, and then I have to like listen to it 10 times, and I'm like, I get it, but it's so huge. I think I said this before to you. It's like it's trying to explain like the U.S. presidential elections to the bacteria in your stomach. You know what I mean? Like the bacteria in your stomach has its own little, ecosystem, and it doesn't know what the bigger outer things. They're trying to explain a nuclear bomb to the bacteria in your stomach is like, nor would it care. But if something affected it, if a nuclear bomb went off, or our food supply went off, all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, there's no food here. So everything kind of as above, so below, right? So these things outside affect, and then it affects us. But it's like consciousness in this book is just all one big swirling system, as far as I could tell from Tom Campbell's. And I don't want to get it wrong, and I don't want to quote him, but what I'm getting from it is like, it's in a weird way, it's depressing, and in a weird way, it's freeing, because you look at it and go, well, okay, well then what is the purpose? What is the purpose of all this? And like, do you, end your story and you take a bow and end up going, okay, now I have my life review, and now I get to see what I've learned and grown? Or is it you were just part of this this experience, and you're born and you live and you die, and then you kind of dissipate into the sea of consciousness again, and you're no more important than an apple falling from the tree that kind of decomposes, and and even that apple has significance, because that apple that is born into the world and falls into the tree and decomposes is feeding the other systems. And so we're all part of this big system that's swirling about, and I'm affecting you and you're affecting me, and this podcast is affecting others, and on a bigger global scale, like, our consciousness is affecting other parts of the consciousness. And so there's no real like, you don't matter, but do we matter as much as we think we do, as far as our ego selves? You know what I mean? And that's the depressing part, is like, okay, so this little play that we're putting on, and these characters that we're playing, and I'm playing the role of Peter Facinelli today, and you're playing the role of Ryan Bledsoe. Like, at the end of the day, I know it all matters. I know we affect each other, but hundreds of thousands of years from now, how much did that affect the consciousness system? Did I grow to it? Or am I still, and when I dissipate into the sea of consciousness, am I still like, do I understand that I played this part, years and years ago? Is time doesn't exist in and of itself, right? So
It's
like,
so trippy.
so
It really
it
is.
becomes really trippy, because time and space don't really exist. It's a man-made construct. So when you put all of that together, it really feels like the bacteria trying to understand nuclear fission. It's like you're just glazed over. And then I had an experience with you guys, which was so wonderful, and so, makes your heart glow, with seeing these beautiful orbs in the sky that, at first your mind wants to go, well, that's a shooting star.
Mhm.
And that's another shooting star. Oh, there's another shooting star. Okay, maybe it's just raining shooting stars. Maybe it's 6 o'clock. Like, we
Meteor
see
shower.
a meteor shower.
Yeah.
And I videotaped like 2 of them, because I was just like, they're so high up in the sky. And then I go home and I play the video, and they're dancing balls of light, and they're changing colors. And you're like, there's no way that's a meteor shower. That's not, your mind wants to make it into something else. It wants to justify. It doesn't want to believe, because it wants to stay in this limited belief system. But I know that they're not, and I know that they're not man-made. There's no way that that's, no one put on a laser show for us that evening at 6 o'clock,
Yeah.
especially for us, and I know that they're not made of any kind of material that we could have created because of the shapes and the patterns that it was making. And I have it on my Instagram if anybody wants to go see these, and you could zoom in, and they're shapes. There's tetrahedrons, there's there's a cross, it becomes in the cross, it becomes all these different shapes and colors. So you're going, okay, well, what is it if it's not man-made and it's not human? Then is it spirits? Is it dimensional? Is it aliens, crafts? And you still walk away with an unanswered questions, which then makes you so frustrated, because I mean, I think I said this to your dad, like, I feel so frustrated as him because he had this experience and he was told certain things, and then I'd be like, but what do I do with it now? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
my cousin Dax was like so excited. He was like, well, this is mind blowing. This is life changing. And I didn't want to be pessimistic, but I was like, but what do I do with it? Because I still have to, feed my family and go to my job and make my movies and get my coffee and, eat my lunch. But what do you do with it? Because I still don't know what it is or how to help it or how to help humanity in any way. And I know it all starts with the self. I get it. But I still go, what now? What now? What now?
I love this, Peter, because when we were skywatching together, which was, I guess, 2 nights that we were skywatching, and over those 2 nights, we probably saw somewhere around 150 lights. 100 on the first night, on the second night, anywhere from, I don't know, 30 to 50. And what I love about hearing you explain this to me now in such detail and with such enthusiasm is great, because you were so quiet during the skywatch, and I didn't want to probe you. I didn't want to be like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? And you were just kind of like quiet. You were sitting there. You were really chill. I noticed you were in the 0G and you were filming and you were getting your footage. And the whole time I was thinking, I wonder what's going on in Peter's head. I wonder what you think about this. So to hear you explain this to me is very surreal. It's very exciting to like see how your gears have been turning about this. And I think you're right. I've been there my whole life. Like, what do we do with it? And I think what I've naturally come up with is like, just be the best I can be, just try to share this with people and just try to glow like those beautiful bright lights and just be the kindest person that I can be and help others to see like, hey, there's something freaking going on up there, and in here.
I think what's funny is like, it's hard because I understand the plight that you and your family have, because even sharing it with my family or friends, and you want to show them and you show them footage. Now I have footage. Your dad didn't even have footage for like the first years.
5
He didn't have
years.
footage. Yeah, 5 years, no footage. People are like, sure, you saw that, but I have footage, and people are looking at it going, oh yeah, that's interesting. And then that's it. And then that's it. Yeah, they don't know what to do with it either. Or they'll go, well, you sure it wasn't this? Are you sure it wasn't that?
Always.
Or, I sent it to a couple of friends, and, teasingly, he shot a star. It was like, look, I see it too. And it's like, he was moving his phone around. And I was going to be like, well, that's not funny. Cause like, this is what I saw. And like, I mean, I think people's go-to is to either make fun of it, brush it off, or rationalize it before
Always,
they
yeah.
go, oh, that was, I believe, you know what I mean? It's like they even now the government's coming out and saying, these things, we don't know what they are, and they're not, I don't think they're human, they're not man-made, people are, and they're like, and next on the news, it's like,
Right on to the next one.
Gas prices are up, and here's like right over the people's heads, because it's just
I think a lot of people don't know what to do with it.
I think that's it. And I'm one of them. I was like, so now what do I do? Until they come down and they're like, okay, this is how it all works. Which is like, okay, but why didn't you give me the instruction manual? Because like, I want an instruction manual. I guess we do have an instruction manual, right? It's just like you said, Ryan, you live a good life. Don't be mean to people, don't kill people, don't cheat. And there's that code of ethics that's a nice instruction manual, but like, we know so little. And so that's why I think I'm such on this quest of trying to figure out things, because you look at our past and it's a lot of lost history, and they want to try to explain things away. You know what I mean? I think I wrote a book, a young adult novel, and it was a dystopian novel, and in it I put like the world was kind of like all full of cement, broken cement, and people would go scavenging and they would find this the CD they found. They put a finger in it and they're like, "What do you think this is for?" He's like, "Oh, it's a pocket mirror. Look, you can see your reflection." I was like, "That's what we do. We find things in the desert. It's like, oh yeah, they buried their dead in there, and like they must have dragged these ginormous rocks 10,000 miles, across the sand. How'd they do that? Oh, don't worry about that.
Who knows? Somehow.
Look over there."
Yeah.
And there's like laser cut stones, and you're like, "Well, how'd they cut that? With hammer and chisel?" Yeah.
Sure.
They had copper chisels back then. There's no way you could cut that rock. Don't ask that. Yeah, they don't. They just kind of make up stuff. So we've made up this history about things we've found. That we've had this lost history that we don't really know who we are, and we don't really know what we're doing here. And then we just kind of like try to live as good of a life as we can within. But like, I'd like to know. I'd like to know. I'm on the quest of like, okay, well, what is the bigger thing? And that's, I guess, what a lot of religions try to solve. But in a, when you have religion, it becomes organized, then it becomes about other things. You know what I mean? So I try to stay in the spirituality rank, which is not like my religion is better than your religion, or we're going to go to toe to toe about it. It's like spirituality isn't about what's best and whose ideas are best. It's about, for me, being open to it all,
Absolutely.
and so I am. I mean, I don't have any definitive answers. I don't think anybody does.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
So to say I have the definitive answer, it's impossible to say that.
Yeah, I think a lot of the like confusion and the desire to be like, what does it all mean? What do I do with this information? I feel like a lot of that probably comes from the whole like dance of duality between like your meat body and your soul body,
Mhm.
because they are separate, but we feel like they're the same because it's like, it's me, I'm my soul, or I'm my body, or I'm whatever.
Yeah.
But in reality,
Well, what's the question, right? What is me?
yes,
Right?
you
Is
are actually behind
me?
all of it.
Yeah, because there's like, I have a hand. Is that me? Am
No,
I my head? If I lose my arm, do I become less me? If
exactly.
I lost my arms and legs, am I still not me? You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so many. What is the me? Is the essence of the consciousness inside of you. That's the only me you really have. Everything
Yeah.
else is this, this mask of the persona that you've adopted. And also, the me is it's interchangeable, right? So like,
Mm.
I am right now, the me that I'm talking to you is the guest on Bledsoe Said So. The me, I'm also an actor. The me is, I'm also a father, I'm also a husband, I'm also the son of somebody. There's so many me's. So we're all dancing around playing all these parts of me's. You're like, well, who's the real me behind all that? Isn't any of those.
It's the
It's all the
awareness.
awareness
Yeah.
of all of those me's.
Yeah, like watching it all happen. It's like that infinite awareness
Mhm.
behind it all. And I think the reason, I don't know, just in my intuition purely, not, and there are some ancient texts that would suggest that this might be what's going on, but I feel like we're little pieces of God, or the infinite like consciousness, whatever you want to call it, the big energy, the big ball of energy. We're little
Mhm.
pieces of it. All of us are little pieces of it, and we're here to experience life for that thing. Because
Mhm.
if it was just a floating ball up in space, it doesn't really have anything to experience.
Yeah.
The whole energy can never be created or destroyed. It was always
Mhm.
there, and then it just started breaking off pieces of itself and turning
Mhm.
into people and grass and trees and animals, and so that it could experience everything and
I
learn.
believe that. I believe that.
Who was it? Was it Amy that said no learning in heaven? There's no
Um,
learning in heaven.
and I think so.
I believe it was,
One
but
of
but
our
that really stuck with me, that you can't learn anything in heaven because it's
Mhm.
perfect, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And-
Well, I used to say this to people, like, if you were a all conscious, all knowing, infinite being, right? What's the one thing that you can't have? The one thing that you can't understand?
Pain.
No,
Um,
because you can create a duality for that and have, the only way you create pain is to not know pain, right? So you can create
hmm,
duality for that. So what's the one thing you just cannot fathom or understand?
I
that's a
don't know.
tough one.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's being finite. You can
Oh,
never, if you're infinite, you can never understand what being having a beginning and
Wow.
an end is, right?
Wow.
So now the only way I can understand how to be finite is to literally hide myself into something and forget that I'm this infinite, all-knowing, all-powerful thing, so that I can have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And now I can understand. Like, we have a hard time understanding infinite. Like, it blows my mind. Well, what do you mean? Never created, never destroyed. Everything we know has been created and ends. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Everything.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't fully understand how anything could be infinite because I'm a finite being. So it's a reversal of, I'm going to trick myself into break myself into these pieces that are all finite, so I can experience that. And then it's
Damn,
a
dude.
feedback loop. Then it's a feedback loop to the infinite source.
I want to add to that.
That's profound. If you have a mic, you need to drop it. Honestly, like that's seriously profound.
Can you imagine like how just I literally found out he was coming like 2 weeks before,
Right,
you know,
yeah.
and it was just kind of a sudden thing. And Brad was like, "Can he come?" I was like, "Heck yeah, you can come. Invite whoever you want." And spending 3 days and hearing these kind of things, I think by the first night I was like, dude, I don't want to put you on the spot, but will you come on our podcast? I did, didn't I?
Yeah, I think,
like,
I think it's when we started talking about spirals, because I was like, everything's in spirals, right? Like you look up at the universe and it's like the galaxy is a spiral, but then you go to the crown of your head and there's a spiral, and like a hurricane or like the weather patterns are spiraling. So everything, a pine cone. So everything is a toroidal field, everything.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking, okay, so if it's a spiral, is it that you have this black hole that is like literally like things are going in and going into it and coming out the other end? Are we in a black hole? Like, because where's that spiral leading to? It's got to come out somewhere the other side. So maybe everything is just like leading into a black hole, coming out of a black hole. Maybe the Big Bang is the black hole. And these are things that like I ponder and pontificate on, try to read up on and try to figure out. And again, it kind of, I'm like, I think I understand it. And then it's like, it grasps through the hands, slips away. Yeah. And then it's just like, okay, I'll go get a Starbucks coffee and forget all about
it. Yeah. So something that tripped me up was reading, and I can't remember the source of this. It's just like some old quote, but it's like, you are the space between your thoughts. And I was like, whoa, think about meditation, right? Like you're kind of meditating and you're kind of trying to empty your mind to where you're having those less thoughts, and in that space where you're not even really thinking, that's the real you. And I'm like, whoa, that really makes sense. How often are a lot of these, I like to say, intrusive thoughts that come in on a daily basis coming from some persona in our subconscious mind that's just trying to dictate certain behavior? Like, no, you're going to get angry when you're cut off in the road. Oh, you're really hungry, or oh, you really want to do this or do that. But it's like, maybe I'm really not any of those thoughts, but I'm something even behind those. And then another thing, I've been reading this book off and on about Hermetic magic. Are you familiar at all with like Hermeticism, Peter?
Yeah, I've read some of them, some of those books. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So there's this book I've been reading. I think it's called Hermetic Magic.
Yeah.
And something
Hermetic something, 7 Hermetic something there.
The 7 Hermetic laws. Yeah.
Yeah.
But something that was said in this book that I thought was really profound was it was talking about the original expression of consciousness. Like we talk about, God, the infinite source, whatever, as it was before we were here. And that old Socrates or Aristotle, I can't remember which one, said, know thyself. And when you go through these chambers of initiation in ancient Greece or ancient Persia or whatever these mystery schools, and they would say, know thyself, that's the key to, enlightenment. In this book, it poses that the original expression of this infinite consciousness was to know thyself, that it had a moment of self-contemplation or inner reflection. And in that moment of inner reflection, another form of its consciousness was created that it is not even aware of because it's so infinite and so perfect. So it contemplates itself, a shadow of its own consciousness is created, and then that other consciousness goes and it's like, oh, well, I want to know myself. And it's just perpetually like self-reflecting, where you go all the way down the scale where we're like, well, I don't want to self-reflect. I want to play video games. I have a job. I got to pay bills.
Yeah, that's the best way to ignore, to like just kind of ignore all of it and go, okay, I don't want to think about it. I want to know about it. And I think most of us end up doing that, but it's I'm drawn to answering that question all the time. There's the famous quote, I think, therefore I am, right? You know that one? Who said
Rene
that? I
Descartes.
think, yeah, Rene
Rene
Descartes,
Descartes.
the guy on the little
I think.
statue is pondering life. He says, I think, therefore I am. And I always thought it should be, I think they have it backwards. I am, therefore I think.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree.
we are what you know, I am what I am. That's like the Popeye saying, but it's also like the saying of Yahweh. It's the saying of God. Like, I am what I am. Whatever you say I am after, I am tired, I am hungry, I am going to win, is what you become. So it's a very powerful thing. And the I am is just the consciousness of whatever potential could be after the I am. You know what I mean? And so I am, therefore I think kind of makes more sense to me because the thinking comes out of the I am. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've read the exact same perspective. I
Yeah.
completely agree. Like, I think
I
you're right.
think we also talked about, like, in meditation, the best way to get the thoughts, those intrusive thoughts, to stop. And I do this trick sometimes, is like you sit by yourself and you say, I wonder what I'm going to think next. And then
Yeah.
nothing comes. It's like blank. The first time your mind is stumped, you're like, you're on to me. You know what I
Oh,
mean? If
shit.
you sit
Yeah.
there and you let it just drive you, all of a sudden you're getting all these thoughts. And if you just go, I wonder what I'm going to think next, all of a
Got
sudden your mind just goes ghost town, nothing.
This brings us to a great point that I don't think you guys know about, and I think this would be a really fun conversation. Peter is a certified hypnotherapist.
No way. I
Yeah.
had no idea.
Yeah.
So, are
Yeah.
you
I
willing?
got certified over COVID. I was always, again, fascinated with the mind, frequencies, and we're mostly in beta all day long, and then we slip into alpha at times. And alpha state is where they sell you stuff. That's why on Instagram you're kind of like put into alpha, because you're always like, and I do this too. I'd be up at late at night and I'd be like, yeah, I'd like the Shirley Temple collection. No, I'm not a perv. I have a daughter. And it's a Shirley collection, Shirley Temple collection, all 12 CDs. And it shows up at your house, and you're like, I don't remember ordering that, because it's the middle of the night and you're in this alpha state, and you're just like, the TV comes on and they're selling you the Ginsu 2 knives and the Shirley Temple collection, and you're just like, and you buy stuff. But that's where the alpha state is kind of this hypnotic state where you can suggest things to people. And so it's fun to learn about those states, because I think there's so much work that can be done in the alpha, the gamma, and the delta states that we don't really tune into because we're so busy trying to in the beta state all the time.
Yeah, his cousin Dax was telling me that he did like a 20-minute session with Peter, and
nice.
he hasn't smoked a cigarette since. It's been like a year or two, and wow, very
I
powerful
did one
stuff.
session with Dax, and he was having a hard time. He'd smoked for a decade, maybe longer, and in one session he stopped. And then I had a friend who came to me and said, my ex-wife, she's biting her nails a lot. Do you think you could help her? I said, yeah, sure, take care of it. One session, she stopped biting her nails. And here's the funny part. I went to her house and I did suggestions for her about, and I bit my nails for the longest time too. I stopped biting mine too.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Because as I was giving her suggestions, it kind of helped me too. So like after that, that subconscious, like the more I feel like I help other people, the more it kind of comes into my life as well. And so it's kind of lovely. Like I haven't bit my nails since I helped her, and she hasn't either.
Yeah.
So it's pretty powerful. Pretty powerful. Have you ever done a hypnosis session?
I have. I've had a couple of them, but that's just because of the UFO stuff, like regressions and things. Ironically, though, you might find this fascinating. I didn't believe in reincarnation or anything like that until I had a hypnotic regression, and I had a past life regression. And even though I didn't believe in it, I vividly saw past lives unfold like very clearly, down to the minute detail, like names, hair color. And I was like, whoa, it really shook me up. And I've had a couple of other regressions, but my recent experience has been at the Monroe Institute, where it's not really hypnotic regression. It's more like suggestive meditation, but I think it's kind of on the same spectrum, right?
It's still, because you're in this, again, you're in the alpha state. They put you into alpha, delta, gamma. And then when you're in that state, you're a lot more suggestible. And that's when your consciousness can travel too. So like, it's about getting yourself, it's like getting yourself out of the way. You know what I mean? I liken it like this. There's the bouncer at the door, and it doesn't want to let you in. And when you do hypnosis, you either put the bouncer to sleep for a little while so that you can get into the club, or you keep the bouncer busy with an activity so you can get back into the inner workings of the mind, the subconscious, into the club of that, and then once you're in there, then you can plan. Look, I could never make you do anything that you don't want to do, or because the mind is so strongly willed. But if you want to quit smoking, my suggestions will help you. If you want to stop biting your nails, my suggestions will help you. I can never make you cluck like a chicken unless you wanted to be a participant in that. And so you wanted to experience these regressions in a way that took you back and traveled you into other timelines, and you were able to do that. But if you're resistant to it at all, or don't want to be there, or don't want to ever quit smoking, you're like, I'm just doing this for my wife, or my husband, it's not gonna help you. That's why sometimes it fails. It's not the hypnotist's fault, it's because it's like you gotta actually be a participant in it.
Yeah.
So you got into the hypnotherapy stuff just because of your fascination with the mind and the consciousness and that kind of stuff. It was just it piqued your interest.
When I started acting, I was really shy, and I found that getting up in front of people, I have performance anxiety. I was 19, 20. I wanted to be an actor, but it was I was so shy in high school, I couldn't even get in the lunch line. I was too afraid I'd drop something, and it'd be one of those moments where the whole cafeteria starts laughing at you, and I've been done. So I was I would go to the back of the cafeteria, grab a pretzel and orange juice, and sit down before anybody saw me. I didn't want anybody looking at me. So I was when I told my parents I wanted to be an actor, we were like, you? I was like a 5'2" person going, I want to be a basketball star. And you're like, huh? So, but for me, I found that playing characters, actually, I was able to be, I had full potential to explore all parts of myself, because people weren't looking at me, they were looking at this other person. But I still felt a little performance anxiety in the beginning. And I worked with a hypnotherapist, and that helped me immensely, because it helped me shut off that part of me that felt oh, these people are looking at me and judging me, and felt now I can just actually relax into this character and be whoever, and experience this other person, and they're not looking at me, they're looking at this person. So that freed me up to be and do whatever I wanted within the context of the scenes.
That's
Whoa,
amazing.
that's really cool. And you had that experience at such a young age too.
At
around
21, 21, before I did anything professional. And I remember going to class after I took the hypnotherapy course. I only did a couple of sessions, and I still would go every once in a while, if I had a big movie or wanted help with lines. But I took a couple of sessions, and I remember going to class, and they were like, what did you do different? It's different. You're way freer and way more comfortable. And that was an incredible scene. And so the feedback loop was it was working. It wasn't just in my mind. I'm oh, these things help. I was getting feedback from other people going, whatever you're doing, keep doing that.
Wow.
So I always found it powerful. I've used it throughout my career, to help free me up with characters, or like I said, sometimes you got long speeches that are intimidating. You're how am I going to memorize that? And you can, it's part of your job, but your mind wants to go, you can't do that. And then you go to hypnotherapy, and you're no, you can do it. And so it's helped me a lot. And then when COVID came about, I was well, why don't I just learn it? And then I can help other people or make myself tapes, and so I've done that.
That's awesome.
I'm sitting here pulling up your IMDb because I'm trying to find the name without interrupting of that movie that you and I were talking about at the river. It's one you were in when you were very young, and it's a party movie. What's it called?
Oh, can't hardly wait.
Can't hardly wait. I still have to watch that. But you gotta forgive me,
okay.
because we just binged all 5 Twilight, and next is On Fire, and then Unbreakable Boy comes out. So I'm getting through the catalog, right? And I've already started On Fire, by the way, and I love it. I really do.
Yeah. Well, it's very poignant with what's going on with in LA, and I don't want to plug that while we're going through it, but so many times, I mean, now that we're actually going through these fires, I'm wow, there's so many things in that movie that were kind of accurate, like the spot fires that happened, how the house got surrounded. The dad was it's never going to come across that gorge. It's way off in the distance. And literally I said that to my wife, Lily. I was you know what? It's pretty far away. And she goes, didn't you watch your own movie? And I was oh yeah, you're right. Spot fires can happen because the embers fly over, and then all of a sudden you can be, so you have to be prepared, even if it's not that close. It could travel. Fires travel. So
he just
directed. And that's when I packed the bag. I was okay, I'm gonna get ready.
You already not to trivialize it, but it's just
Yeah.
it's on the nose, dude. So you guys might not be aware of this. He just directed and starred in this movie called On Fire that came out in September. And we
Right,
started it the night
yeah.
he left, but then we were at the Airbnb. You know, I drove across town and Jenny was like, let's watch Twilight. I really want to watch Twilight. And then literally like over the next 6 or 7 days, we were watching the Twilight movies. So anyway,
Well, I got 30 years of movies for Ryan to catch up on. So.
Oh my God, dude. It's crazy. And I'm sitting here, I was pulling up your IMDb. I had no clue you were in the Scorpion King.
Oh yeah.
Oh, what?
I was in the Scorpion King with the Rock. I always joked that I knew him when he was a pebble because it was his first movie.
The Pebble.
And he was nicest guy. Nice guy. It was his first film. He crushed it. He's had a solid career, and I loved working with him.
Oh, and yeah, dude, I really do have a lot of your work to catch up on, but no, that is very strange, right? Like how the day you left, we're talking about this movie you made, and then like it was like the next night those fires happened. I definitely took that as very weird, like, oh my God, because that's what the movie's about. But
yeah, that's
anyway,
well, we talk a lot about synchronicities a lot while we were together with your family too. Like there's so many synchronicities, you know, and it's like the universe kind of giving you a wink, you know, like they're listening, or it's listening, it's working with you. You know what I mean? I was telling Ryan there was a time when I was doing some work with Dr. Joe Dispenza's stuff, you know, listening to his meditations a lot. I went and did a retreat with Dr. Joe Dispenza. It was a really incredible experience. And you go through these meditations, and you know, and you ask for the universe to give you these signs, you know, that it's listening. And so I was driving to a photo shoot that afternoon. I'd done the meditation in the morning, and I remember thinking to myself, you know, maybe the universe it's like an algorithm. You know, the more you put your attention on something, the more you get of that. You know, you go on Instagram, you're looking at whatever, you know, videos, and they give you more of that, and they just keep sending you more of those. They're like, oh, you like this? Here's more. And so maybe that's what life is. And maybe the more you put your attention and awareness on something, the more you're going to see it in your life. And so maybe instead of focusing on frustration, you should focus on you know, gratitude, and just kind of, and then you'll get more of that. And so it's kind of like in Ghostbusters when, you know, they say, don't think of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and then he does, and then the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man comes down. And I started laughing to myself. I said, maybe that's what life's about, right? And so I go to this photo shoot, and I'm doing the photo shoot for a little while. The photographer says, well, let's go up in the balcony and there's like a little like loft, and you go up this wooden ladder. There's nothing up there but a couch. And so I climbed up this ladder to the top of this loft. It's a platform with a couch. The only thing on the couch was a stuffed animal of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. and I had to look at the internet. That's funny. That's funny because when was the last time I saw the Stay Puft Marshmallow in the 80s? When was the last time you saw a stuffed animal version of the Stay Puft Marshmallow? I don't think I've ever
never.
seen.
Yeah,
you know?
Literally never.
I never have.
For it to be downloaded and dropped into this loft that I was just happened to be in is more than coincidence. It has to be the synchronicities of like the universe kind of going, I think you're onto something.
You definitely have a very genuine, I say this in a humble way, like in the most positive way possible. But anyway, I'll just say it. You definitely have a powerful vibe about you. And I say that, Peter, because I've already told you this twice now, but I'm going to say it a third time because I think the audience may appreciate this perspective. And they already know about the sky watches and all this stuff that we've got going on, you know, so it's not news to them. But the last time I saw 100 orbs in one night was with a crowd of 200 people. Please, I want to see. And then, you know, here you come and two other guys, and we're sky watching, and we see 100 orbs, and you guys are like, oh yeah, wow, that's really cool. And I'm like, what? This is crazy. So I knew right then and there that you guys were for real, that you're genuine, that you're very serious. And I definitely meant what I said when I said you were part of our family. And like,
yeah, I feel the same.
Yeah. And I told you that, like, I believe that whatever is up there running the show is bringing us together, you and me, and other people like us, like people of like minds, so that we can wield our knowledge to help others be aware of what we're aware of, right? To tap into what we're tapping into. And it's a very wonderful experience. I definitely felt a little weird, not in a bad way, but a little like meta, like surreal. You know what I mean? Like when you're like, whoa, oh my God, what is life? When you were on the plane that day And Jenny was like, Ryan, please, I want to start Twilight tonight. I want to start Twilight tonight. And we throw on the movie. And I had literally just come off the heels of spending 72 hours with you. And then you showed up on the screen and I just paused it. And I was like, Jenny, this is weird, right? This is really weird. And it was amazing. But yeah, I'm on that quest with you, man. I feel what you feel, where you feel like you're grasping something, but what do I do with it? Let's just share it. Let's bring other people on the quest with us.
Yeah, I believe that. And that's why I'm here. I'm just here trying to figure it all out and go, hey, you guys out there, like, what do you guys think? How do you guys think about it? Like, I think we're all trying to figure it out together, you know?
Yeah.
The two of you very much are the same archetype.
Me and Peter?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah,
I felt
for
an
sure.
immediate
That like
kindred.
seeker archetype.
Yeah, a desperate seeker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You know what's funny? Like Ryan, also you said when you had a hard time in the beginning, like because your dad had seen stuff, your brother had seen stuff, and then you were like, "Well, I'm not seeing things. Like, why am I not experiencing it?" Right? And I kind of felt that a little bit when I left because I saw the orbs. You know, I didn't know that you hadn't seen many of them, so I thought 100 a night's normal. So I'm just like, "Cool,
It's
this is a
not.
fun show."
No.
Thanks, you know, orbs. That was a cool show. See you next Tuesday. Because we went out to the beach like the next night and we saw at least 30 of them.
At
And
least.
it was a cloudy, rainy night, and they were like low on the horizon red. They were shooting up in the sky. They were
over the ocean.
they were over the ocean. So I just thought that's a normal occurrence. I love to take full credit for it, but honestly, it's a collective thing. I think
Yeah.
that whoever was with us in that group, Brad and Dax and your dad and you, like us together, was creating some magical moments with them. And I think it's a lot of it, like your dad says, just having your heart open and believing and saying, hey, you know, I'm here humbly, you know, in a humble way to please allow yourself to be seen, and then maybe you'll see it. But when I left, you know, my cousin Dax was on an airplane and he was like, I saw one of the orbs, and like took a video of it outside of his plane window.
It was crazy.
Like, and your dad was like, it followed you home. Like, and he was like, my cousin Dax like has seen a few of them through the years, so like he gets so excited, and I was excited for him. And then Brad had a great experience where you know, his house was in the middle of these fires in Altadena, and all of the homes around him kind of burnt down, and his
Hundreds.
didn't. You know, his didn't. And when he went to the front porch, he had this. There was this like photo of this, like you have behind you, of this like
A lady.
motherly figure, a lady.
She has like a
which was
halo on the image.
Hello,
too.
it's like, you know, in the picture is probably like the Virgin Mary, but she's known by many names, so it's not just one religion. But like it was like on his porch, which was like such a synchronicity of like protection, right? And then there was a fiery, it like burnt all around her except for her image, like
Yeah.
completely like burned all around except for her image. And his house was standing in a, you know, on a block where everyone else's went down. It was just like it was like divinely protected, which was beautiful, and such a synchronicity. And I thought, what an incredible experience to have, and what an incredible experience for Dex to have. And I'm outside looking up every night, you know, for orbs since, and I'm like, I'm not getting anything, guys. Like,
You will.
So
You will.
like for me, I think I remembered you saying like I was frustrated with not, you know, seeing more of them, but I also am humbly sitting here going, you know, they'll come when they want to come. I'll keep looking, I'll keep seeking, and I don't want to live in a frustration, because if you live in that vibration, then you get more frustration, right?
Yeah. But it's a lifelong connection for you now, Peter. You know,
How do you deal with it though? Like how, like I remember you saying, like, I was like, how come I'm not seeing? And your dad said what to you? Because this was really beautiful. He had some really nice words to say to you. Do you remember?
Yes, I do. I remember the exact story I told you, where it was like, at this point I was 18 and I had only seen orbs far away. I had never seen an entity up close. And I was just like, why can't I see him up close? I want to see him up close. I want him to come talk to me. And you know, I had seen plenty of orbs. I knew they were real. I was having experiences, but I wasn't getting anything like crazy yet. And Dad was like, son, you got to be patient, because God's time is not like our time. 1,000 years to us is like one day in the mind of God. Like, you have to understand that these things are playing out on a much bigger picture. You have to be patient and know that your time is coming when it's meant to. And then that's when I heard all those cows that were like, as Brad described, like in the air, moving all around us. And I was like, whoa. And I was like in denial about it. But no, it's exactly right. Like, think about this, man. You left our house a week and like, I don't know, what is today? Wednesday? A week and 2 days ago.
Mm.
And you're outside like, God, I want to see it. I want to see it. Dude, this is only the beginning. For the rest of your life, you have this connection. And I can like, right hand to God, I would dump any infinite amount of my life savings or the highest stakes wager that can possibly be made. I will make that for you right now, that your time is coming. And what has happened for you is the beginning of your connection to where now you're aware of its presence. So the new model of learning that you're undergoing right now is like, okay, how do I navigate this? How do I navigate knowing that they're there and they're always there, even if I'm not seeing it when I look up? I can't tell you how many times I walk outside and I've seen them thousands and thousands of times, and I go outside and I say, oh, I would love to see something, and I don't. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, thanks anyway. And then some nights I walk out to my mailbox and it's boom, 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 not even thinking, and there's 10 there. And that's how it works.
Yeah.
It's just like sometimes it's spontaneous, sometimes it's at request. It's not, there's no algorithm here. It's a spiritual thing. And the most important thing is just to understand that they are there, that the connection is there. They're aware of you. They have a relationship with you, and they're, watching you, and I wouldn't even say testing you. It's more so like gently pulling you along and helping you grow at a good pace so that your mind just doesn't unravel. Because if you're seeing them every night, dude, it's like, well, what do I do? I can't go function at a job. Seeing all this crap every night in the sky. What do I do? I just want to do this all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're going
I
to
think a
pull you
lot of it
along.
is letting go too. You know what I mean? When you let go, then things come to you. So it's like you go out there, you're like, I gotta see, gotta see, gotta see. And then it's like, but your dad's like the Fonz, he's like, there they are,
The
6 o'clock.
Fonz. Yeah.
He's elbowing the jukebox and they're just like popping all up in the sky.
6:15. Correctamundo.
I'm sure y'all probably talked about this, but I mean, many years ago, this was not how it was. It was like you'd be lucky to see one.
Yeah.
Many, like,
that's the same thing on when he recorded.
Yeah, like 15 years ago. It's like, I mean, when I first heard, when they first told me like what was going on, and I was hanging around, I was at their house all the time. Like I basically lived there since I was 13, something like
14.
that. 14. And I wanted to see, something for years. It was years before
I think you were an adult.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was, well, I was probably, I think like 17, I would say.
Yeah.
I was probably 17 or 18, something like that, before I saw one. Like, and these days, I think it's just, there's been so many energetic shifts between then and now.
Yeah.
That it's just, it's more accessible, maybe.
Yeah.
You're seeing him more, you're talking about him more. Even like 15 years ago, like you couldn't even have this conversation because people would be like, you're crazy. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think your dad has experienced that, and Ryan, you've experienced that. And it's like, what I told your dad is like, I mean, the fortitude that your dad had to be like, no, I'm not crazy. This is what I'm seeing. And even though, like I said, I don't know if I would have had that strength, because if I had that experience that night and everyone's like, you're crazy, you didn't see it, you're going to get your kids taken away, your life's going to fall apart. I've been like, okay, maybe I didn't see it. I'm going to go back to work. And, but he was so, he just was unmovable with his strength and the clarity of like, I don't care what people say, I'm gonna tell the truth, and this is what I saw, and this is how it was, and that is such admiration and respect for someone who has that fortitude.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, man, and I just want to impress on you. And you have so much more wisdom and life experience than me, but the one thing that I do have is just like boots on the ground with this particular thing. And it's the one thing I know, right? And what I want to impress on you is that, you could go out there for the next year and not see anything, but the lesson here is just know that they are there and that they didn't just show up and give you that brilliant show, 100 different lights, sometimes 5 or 6 at a time, just for no reason. It was a very intentional thing. It was a conscious participation on their end as much as it was on your end. And that doorway has been opened. My dad and I told you this over and over again. You're going to go home and you're going to see it. I promise you, you're going to see it. And it's just a matter of right time, right mindset, right circumstances, and things going on. And this is the beginning of a whole new journey for you and everyone who sees it. I know this because everyone, thousands of people that we've shared this with, and they go home and they see it. And next thing you know, people are putting up videos and they're filming it, and it spirals and spirals. And spirals.
I 100% believe that. And I believe that if you're open and you bring it into your awareness and you have it, then you'll see it again, because now you know what's there. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I remember reading that the Native Americans, they wouldn't see the ships that were coming in when the pilgrims were coming in and like coming into the land, because they never saw white men, they never saw ships like that. So their consciousness would not see the ships. The ships would all of a sudden appear and they'd be like, I never saw the ships coming, because as they looked out to the ocean, their eyes just wouldn't see them, because they weren't they never experienced anything like it. So they were invisible. They had no frame of reference to a giant boat full of pilgrims coming into their shores. So they were like, where did this boat come from? So not until like one person saw it, then they all started seeing, because became this conscious awareness thing, where once people started seeing it and understood what they were, then they couldn't unsee them. You know what I mean? But that's kind of like I was talking to somebody today, there's the mile run or something, where there was for like 50 years, nobody could break the time of like how fast a man could run within a mile. And like nobody could break this one record. They thought it was impossible to break. And then one time, one person broke it. And immediately after that one person broke it, high school kids broke the record. Like kids, people all over the world started breaking this record. So there's this limitation of belief that happens, or unawareness that there's a global consciousness of something. And then all of a sudden, once that awareness, that limitation is broken, then it's like everybody can see it. And I think that's coming. I think that day is coming.
I think it's called morphogenetic resonance.
Yes.
There are tests they've done with like rats and stuff too. Where and there's
doing the mazes.
Yes, yeah.
Is that why when I'm looking for the ketchup in the refrigerator, I'm like, I can't see it. Where's the ketchup? It's like right in front of my face. It's not the same thing. That's different. Right?
That's a little different. Yeah.
It's wild though. It's like if one rat on one side of the planet learns this complex maze, almost immediately on the other side of the planet, a rat will all of a sudden know how to complete the maze. Yeah, all over the planet. Wow. There's species of coral where simultaneously all over the planet, instantaneously, at the exact same time, they'll all spore, all of them. Regardless of the weather conditions or the light, like night or day or anything. Like instantaneously, all of this same species will.
That's sport. Really profound. I know there was one time where there was like this monkey. I don't know.
I read about that too. The monkey and the banana with a stick or something. And then like 100 monkey. It's called 100 monkeys. Yeah.
Where a banana.
As soon as like a certain amount of the monkeys, like
used a tool,
30 or 40 of them used the tool, and it became like it all shifted where all of them did it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, like in the beginning, like none of them was doing it, and then 5, and then 10, it wasn't enough, and then there was one shift of a certain amount, and then all of a sudden, all of them were able to do it. And then I also read about. You ever read about the flea? That flea can only jump. It could, if you put it in a glass, it would jump out of the glass, right? But they put a saran wrap on top of the glass, so every time the flea would jump, it would only get to a certain height. After a while, it got so exhausted, it would only jump to that just short of that height, because and they took the saran wrap off. And it would only jump to that height. It could never jump out of the, out of the glass, because it only thought, oh, this is all as high as I could jump, before. But even more wow, they introduced a bunch of other fleas. And because that one flea could only jump a certain amount, all the other fleas and its offsprings could only jump to that same height. Because it learned from that one flea that, oh, this is only as high as we can go. So the limited belief of things is such a powerful thing. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love hypnosis. I think hypnosis actually helps open up, and get over limited beliefs.
Yeah, that's very powerful stuff.
Wow, that's wild. The thing with the fleas, that's so crazy.
I didn't know about that one. I love that. The morphogenetic resonance, if you look that up, you'll find a lot more of this. It's very fascinating. Like we're all connected in some web of consciousness. But I want to be respectful of your time. If you have a little bit of time left, I would love to shift gears and let's talk some movies. Are you cool with that? And we
Yeah,
can
sure. Yeah, let's do it.
and then we'll kind of round out the show, leaving the audience with an understanding of Unbreakable Boy, what it's about, whatever you're willing to or allowed to talk about or whatever.
Yeah.
But I've got to ask some Twilight questions. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So something I'm very curious about. I think everybody thinks this. Everybody, the billions of people around the world who are not actors and who are not like on the end of this industry, right? We see all these characters, we see all these roles, and it's like you have to think, man, that's so cool. I mean, I don't even know how to ask this. I think you know what I'm getting at. Like,
no, I know. What's the question?
I don't either.
The question is like, what's it like, dude, to be a major character, a part of like a major franchise that's a household name that everybody knows and is adored by millions, if not billions of people around the world? Like, what's that like? You know, like I'm always wondering, what is it like to be in that spot? Do you love it? Are you proud of it? Is it?
I mean, I don't really think much of it outside of like, it's my job and I go do my job and then, oh, people like this, that's cool. Oh, people didn't like that one. Oh, that's cool. Like it's art that you're always kind of making, right? So like it's always as an actor, you're always like, oh, I'd love to do something that appeals to the mass. That would be wonderful. And then Twilight was that for me. Like I for years, I was a part of this thing, and even today, everywhere you go, like people have seen that movie, and it feels great that somebody's seen your work. I've done 30 years of movies, so like sometimes people might not have seen that, and they've seen one other one. And I always joke, hey, I try to make something for everybody. You don't like romantic, stuff. I did the sci-fi thing, or I did this movie with The Rock, or I try to move around and do action, comedy, drama, because I also love to explore different facets of myself. So like. I don't want to do this one thing all the time. So like when my agent's like, what do you want to do next? I'm like, well, something I haven't done before. That would be fun. So like, I always joke if I put all my characters in one room and it's like all the characters I've played, they'd be a fun party because they're all kind of so different from each other. And there are actors that love to play them. They did play versions of just themselves, and then you get mad at them if they're skew from that. You're like, I don't want to see that person do an accent. I just want to see them be that. But like for me, I love disappearing inside of. So when a fan is like, "Oh, I didn't know you were the same actor in Can't Hardly Wait as you were, Nurse Jackie," or I didn't know you were in Nurse Jackie. I didn't know those were the same actors. That to me is the best compliment because I'm like, "Oh, that's fun." They were seeing the person I created and not me. But at the end of the day, it's also a quest, to try to figure out who I am. Like I'm always searching, like, well, what parts of myself haven't I explored? I play the bad guy, I play the good guy, I play the comedy, I play the action. Like what other things can I experience? And that's the fun of acting for me, is like I get to have all these experiences of all these multiple lives in one lifetime. I've died many times on screen. And lived many times on screen and played vampires and played firefighters and lawyers and doctors. And I always look at it like to me, it's like the cruise ship of life. It's like you go on a cruise ship and you get off and you visit a port. And I'll never know what it's like to live at that port, but I got to visit it. And then I get back on the ship and I go to this other port and I get off and I experience that land for a little. And that's what acting is for me. Like I get off my little port of myself and I get to experience what it's like to be a doctor, but I'll never know what it's like to be a real doctor, but I'll experience a taste of it, and then I get back on and now I'm a vampire and now I'm a lawyer and like within the lawyer, those are occupations, but there are people. I've played 3 doctors once, different things, and people are like, oh, you play a lot of doctor roles. I'm like, nah, they are doctors, but each one of them are very different.
Different people.
If you look at Carlisle Cullen and you put him next to Dr. Coop from Nurse Jackie, those 2 people couldn't be more different. Like one of them is like the rock of the family, somebody you look up to, and the other one's like this child, like 15-year-old kid in a grown man's body is always saying the wrong thing, and he's funny. So it's like they play the same occupation, but they're completely different people. And the other doctor I played was like, sexually assaults somebody, and you're like, whoa, that's not Carlisle. So it's like. And then I would joke, like, hey, they were like, yeah, I watched that movie, and I was so excited you were in it. I was like, oh no, he's doing bad things. I was like, yeah, but if you clap when I died, then I did a good job.
Yeah, that's true.
Sometimes you got to root for the bad guy to die, and then that's exciting too. So for me, it's like I don't think about, oh, I walk out of my house and this fandom and it's a red carpet premieres. I just like, I love the work. And then if people like it and dig it, cool. You know, some people don't, and if that's okay, I'll make something else for somebody else. But to me, it's a job, and you know, I was just as excited to meet you. You know, you're a celebrity in your world, and what your dad has experienced to me is way more exciting in a lot of ways. You know, so like I think I find fame is it's all subjective. You know, and like I never tap into that part of it, or what's it feel like to be this. It's just like I go to work, I do my gig, I try to go and do it the best I can, and then I give it over. And sometimes I direct and try to make the best I can out of that story. And then you give that art over to an audience, and then you kind of it's a two-way street. You know, you give over this art, and if nobody shows up, then you're the tree that fell in the forest. So I'm always hoping people show up and love it or hate it. They're talking about it and enjoying it, and in some way, or you know, having a discussion about it. But I don't know. It's not something I look at from an outsider perspective. What's it like? Because I mean, I could ask you, what's it like being like, you know, you see orbs, and I don't think you ever go, yeah, it's so cool. I walk around, people are like, you're the guy who sees orbs. Like you just kind of go out and you experience it, and then it's your life.
Yeah.
So it's not like something that feels any different than what somebody else is doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just happens to be my job. But I'm blessed. I do feel blessed. You know, I'm excited, and every time I get to have an experience of like, you know, making a movie or playing a character, and really getting into the work of the role, and trying to craft a you know, performance, and that's exciting to me.
That's very profound.
You're a true artist. That's what
Yeah.
I'm getting. You're a true artist.
That was a profound answer.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, you're
Like,
not thinking about like you said, not thinking about it from the outside. You're like,
Yeah.
I'm just engaging in my art, and I'm going to put it out there. And if people like it, sweet, awesome. If they don't, that's cool. I'm just going to go do the next art piece anyway. You know,
Yeah.
I respect that a lot. I really do.
And I also don't buy into fame because it's subjective. It's like, I remember being out once, and I was at a bar with my friends. This big guy comes over. He goes, "Hey, can I have your autograph?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." "Oh, can I take a picture with you?" "Yeah, no problem." And I'm always like very approachable, because I also am fans of people. So if I ever went up to somebody and was like, "Hey, can I have an autograph?" and they said, "No, beat it," I'd be like, "Oh man," like I feel bad. So I always am like, "Here, let me FaceTime your grandma. Let me, you know, call your sister," because I want to be able to like make sure that somebody, if they like my work, I'm engaging with them and they have a good experience with me, and because the work I do is for them, you know, and so I'm happy to meet them. And so I took a picture and an autograph, sent it to him, and my friend said, "Oh my God, do you know who that was?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Oh, he's a footballer. He's a quarterback for the so-and-so, blah, blah, blah." I was like, "I don't watch football. I didn't know." So to him,
Objective.
I was famous. To my friend, that guy's famous. You know what I mean? So it's like, I can never live my life of like, well, don't you know who I am? Because it doesn't matter. You know, it's like, fame is relative to what people are watching or what people are seeing, and like, and if you're watching my stuff and liking it, I'll make more for you. I hope you keep watching. And speaking of, here's a good segue, because Unbreakable Boy comes out in February. Super excited about Unbreakable Boy, because it's a book that you know, we talk a lot about synchronicities, and so I'm going to tell you the story. It's my brother-in-law calls me up. He owns a pharmacy in New York, and he said, "Hey, Pete." He knows nothing about the business. He said, "A guy walked into my pharmacy. He wrote a book. You should make it into a movie." And I was like, you know, that's cool, but it's hard to get a book made into a movie. Like, you know, because you're trying to make one. But like this one was like, a guy walks into a, you know, pharmacy with a book. There's a lot of books out there. And so it's almost impossible to write a script and make one, because you have to give it to somebody. They have to read it. It's 120 pages. Getting somebody to read a full-on book and being like, "Hey, can you read this book? I want to make it into a script, then make it into a movie," is almost damn near impossible in my industry. And so I said, "Yeah, sure. That's nice." And he goes, "I told him you're going to meet with him. He's coming to LA." I was like, "Oh, God." I said, "Why did you do that?" And I was like, "Do you know this guy?" He's like, "No." I said, "Well, now I feel bad." I said, I'll have lunch with him, because I hate saying no to people.
Yeah.
And he wrote a book, and he's like, "I'll send you a copy." And I said, "Did you read it?" "No, I didn't read it."
This is a completely random guy.
This is a guy that has a book. So, all right. So I was like, I started skimming through it. I was like, oh, this is kind of good. It's a dad and he has an autistic son, and it's really a beautiful story about how he felt like he was failing, and then he realized how his son had more to teach him about love and life than he could ever possibly teach him, and like and how he formed this beautiful relationship with his son. And I was like, it's a
Oh
true
wow.
story. It was a beautiful story, and like I was like, oh, that's a cool book. But when I met with him, I had no intention of like I'm going to take this on. I have
Mm.
so much on my plate. I was just like, look, love the book. Like, what are you doing with it? And he said, I have some producers on it. And I was just giving him some advice. The producers that he had on it were trying to get him to pay for a script. And I was like, no, you don't pay for a script. You have the IP. They should pay for the script. Like, I was just trying to like help him so
Mm.
he doesn't get taken advantage of. And then like 3 months later, he texts me once in a while. What do you think of this? What do you think? I text him, go back to my stuff. About 3 months later, he said, hey, those producers fell off. Do you want to do it with me? I was like, well, I got a lot on my plate, but I like the story enough where I said, let me try. I'll take it on. And so I give the book to my agents. I give it to my manager. And 3 months later, they still hadn't read it. I'm like, hey, did you guys ever read that book? Oh no, did you send it to me? Yeah, put it in your mailbox. I drove by your house and put it in your mailbox when you told me to. And so every once in a while, I'd have a meeting and I pitch a couple of things. Like, oh, I got this book, and I'd start talking about it. And so finally, I had one guy who's like, that's an interesting idea. Let me read it. And he read it and he wanted to do it as a TV series. We thought, oh
Mm.
man, this is amazing. This is exciting. He wants to do the TV series. And so we pursued that. And about 4 months later, the writer they had on it, he jumped off and went on another project. And we had to wait for him. And then another 6 months went by. And then his TV show got picked up and he couldn't do it. So it kind of fell apart a little bit. And now you're like, man, I thought it was going to go. And it's just, again, you're looking to the universe to co-manifest with you. And you're like, why
Mm.
would you send me down this path? And I thought, and give me hope and then take it away,
Mm.
And then you're like, all right, well, I went to the writer. I said, look, we could wait another 6 months for the writer. We have something in hand here, or we could take it back from them and start over. But it's not easy if we start over. And I'm praying that he's like, no, let's keep it with them, because we have something tangible. And he goes, no, let's take it back. And I was like, okay. So I went back. I said, you know what? We're going to take it back. And I thought to myself, well, as we were taking it back, I don't think this movie's going to go because like we had it like set up somewhere, and to reset it up somewhere is just, and I've had already exhausted a lot of avenues and thought, I don't know who to give it to next, And again, you let go and you give up to, the universe. And I was at a meeting, I pitched it, and they said, oh, yeah, that sounds interesting. Let me read it. A month later, they read it. They were like, we really like this, and we want to make it with you. And we have a deal with Lionsgate, and maybe this company called Kingdom Films. Like, I think we could make this work, and we love the project and the book. Okay. And within 2 months, we had a deal signed with them, and then COVID hit,
Oh
and
wow.
like everything shut down. Right? It's like April, May 2020, and in a weird way, it helped us because all the studios were shut down. Lionsgate was like, we can't make any movies, but there are all these big movies they wanted to make. And this one had a cast of like 6, 7, 8 people. And it was a smaller, And I said, well, why don't we make this one over here? Because maybe we could try to see if, quarantine and make sure nobody gets sick and use it as a model to see if we can make movies during COVID and test every
Cool.
day. And so it got moved up to the front of the line. And we were the only movie shooting during COVID in like November 2020.
Wow.
Every other studio was shut down. The only other movie being made was overseas. I remember it was Mission Impossible.
Mm.
Wow.
The Mission Impossible was being made and my movie. And I was like, wow, but I started realizing, wow, the timing of it was like like you said, it was on a universal plan. It
Yeah.
wasn't on my time. It was on its time because it had to go through the experience of getting set up, through the TV show, getting held up, being pulled in, falling apart, getting put in this person's hand. My agent's not reading it for 3 months to get to the point of that moment where that film company got it in its hands, read it, and then COVID happened timing wise, exactly when it was supposed to for this movie. It was horrible for everything else, but for the movie, it sped things up. And then it was made at a time when it was supposed to be made. And then it was like on a universal, path. And then it got held up after it was made. It was testing in the 90s, and they were about to put it out, and all the theaters shut down because of another wave of COVID. So they could have just thrown it out there and said, hey, we have the posters up, but instead they were like, no, we really believe in this movie. We're gonna pull it from, we're not gonna release it. And this was in 2022 maybe, and so they pulled it from all the theaters, and I was like, man, we were about to go and we had posters in Europe. What I mean? I was like, but I never wavered. I remember the writer of the book calling me, going, "Hey, this is not good." And I said, "No." I said, "This is on Universal time. You know what I mean? Everything that had to happen for a reason. This is a blessing. For whatever reason it is, it's a blessing." Then new people came into Lionsgate. They were like, "Should we release it on video? Should we release it in theaters?" And that got held up. And now it's finally coming out. And I truly believe that this movie's such a powerful film, has such a beautiful message. I remember watching it with my kids, and they hugged me afterwards, and they were like, "Dad, that was so beautiful." And and it's a healing movie. Like, it really heals. Like, you feel so much more connected to your family, and like, you just want to go out and love people. I'm like, I think it's coming out at a time when we need it, and it's on the Universal time. And when it comes out, I know it's going to do well, because it's supposed to come out when it's coming out, which is in February. So look for it in February. It's called The Unbreakable Boy. Stars Zach Levi, Megan Fahey. I have a partner too. My main function was really like producing it, so I do like a fun, role in it. But it's mainly Zach Levi and Megan Fahey. But you'll enjoy it. Like, it's a movie that you'll go, bring a box of tissues, but in a good way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that.
That sounds awesome.
Thank you for sharing that story. And you know what? If it means anything to you, Peter, after spending 3 days with you and then watching like the first 40 minutes of On Fire, I definitely felt that same vibe. Like, knowing you as a person and then watching On Fire, I felt I felt a part of your personality in that movie. Like, just, I don't even know how to explain it. Just the way the family is, the way your character was. He was this kind of like gentle, loving father. He's, dad's up there now. He's, just the things he would say. I could feel that you had a hand in crafting that. So I know Unbreakable Boy has to be, on that level. I'll be watching it. I don't know.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? I'm watching that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I saw the trailer. I thought it looked incredibly wholesome. And if anything, I will be supporting you no matter what,
Yeah, thanks, man.
The story of it all coming together is really cool and inspiring too. That's awesome. I will be watching that. We should watch it together.
Yeah,
we should all make a night of it.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
It comes out in just a few weeks, right? I mean, do you have a date in mind, or do you know the date?
I know it's February. Let me look at the calendar real quick.
We'll break out the popcorn. We'll all.
Well, the beautiful thing is it's in theaters. So you go runs it, because there's not a lot of movies anymore that you like go to theaters to see, unless they're Marvel. But this is a movie like you could go with your friends and family and go, okay, this is a beautiful movie that I want to go see on a big screen. You know what I mean? It's fun to go to the theaters. I'm sad, as I'm guilty too. I don't go as much as I should or used to. But this is one of those that you want to go see on a big screen,
I've been going a lot more lately, so I'll definitely grab a seat in the theater for this one, no doubt.
The premiere is February 18th or 19th, so I'm guessing it opens on the 21st, February 21st.
Okay,
sweet.
Cool. I'm guessing. If it's not that, I'll let you know so you can put the right.
Well, the trailer's out. The trailer's out, so I'm.
But if the premiere is usually the week of, so. I would say if the premiere is on the Wednesday, then the 21st is probably the opening weekend in theaters.
Awesome.
February 21st.
I love that you're an actor and like your whole life is movies, and you just said, whether you know it or not, you said, I feel guilty. I don't go to the theater as much as I should. That's funny. Like, who feels guilty about that?
I mean, I do feel guilty because I want to support my industry, and I know how hard it is because like I have kids, it's hard to get to the movies, and there's and I have the giant TV, so I like being on the comfort of my own home. But there's something about going to a movie where it's like, again, it's this consciousness of many people getting together for an experience, right?
Yeah.
So when you go into a theater and like there's this experience where you feel the energy, you know what I mean? And so it's wonderful to go and have that experience when it's like action and cars flipping and explosions, people flying, and you get that adrenaline. But it's also beautiful to go there and feel like the love on the screen, and then this love that's kind of radiate through the audience. And then you hear somebody kind of crying because it's so beautiful, and then it makes you weep too. And like to have that communal experience in a movie that's moving is a really beautiful thing. So definitely check it out in theaters.
Yeah. No, I 1000% will.
We're there.
Yeah, we're there. And I do have to say earlier, when we were talking about, you were giving your answer to my like original Twilight question, what's it like, you know? And you were like, yeah, when people approach me, I'm this, I'm that, da 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 da. I can honestly vouch and say that that is true, and that's very inspirational. I have always, I find a lot of similarities in myself, but on a smaller scale with like you and Brad and even Dax, like all three of you guys. I see like a miniature version of myself in you guys. And something you did that was so funny to me that you have no clue how funny this is to me and my sister and to Jenny is we were at this Airbnb. We all stayed at this Airbnb together. The listeners probably don't know this. Me, you, Brad, Dax, my mom, dad, sister, my brother-in-law, Jenny, and then another friend of ours. We were all at this Airbnb for like 2 days. And we're scouting the Airbnb. It's like this 4-story mansion on the beach. A friend of ours was generous enough to hook it up. And we go upstairs and we're like, oh my God, here's the Twilight books. And me and my sister and Jenny and Jack were kind of giggling, like, how funny would it be if we got him to sign it? And we went downstairs and we're like, Dax, look what we found. We found the Twilight books. Dax is his cousin, right?
Yeah.
Dax giggles, oh, how funny would it be if he signed it? So we're like, dude, we got to get him to sign it. And sure enough, he signed it. And he signed, it was Twilight and New Moon. And we left them on the coffee table in the living room. So we were hoping that the host of the Airbnb would find the copies with his signature, because it's like, how cool is that? But you didn't have to do that. You don't have to do things like that. Like,
I think it's fun. Like, I think it's fun to do stuff
cool.
like that.
It's funny, right?
I just hope they aren't like, why do you desecrate my books?
Yeah.
I had a thought.
They
I definitely
might
had a
have thought like, who scribbled a name in my book? And like, no, it's Carlisle.
I definitely had that same thought too. Like, what if they're like, whoa, you wrote my book? But like, you know, like we bumped into my cousin at Harris Teeter, and he just walked right up to her and he's like, hey, nice to meet you. And, you know, super friendly. And like, I appreciate about that.
Well, I never assume anybody knows, you know, my work or anybody. Like my wife has to be like, hey, don't, you know, I'll be walking and she'll be like, don't spit on the sidewalk. People are looking at you. I'm like, sorry. So I don't really pay attention. Like, I'm not walking around thinking people are looking, because I just kind of live my life, and like, you know, I'm not really walking around like, hey, look at me. You know, I just kind of like, you know, to me, your family is like my family. I walked in, and you guys were cool, and we all bonded, and we were all kind of hanging out in the Airbnb together, you know. So I remember we were fighting over, when we got there, there was like the big bedroom, and then there's the bedroom that was like the small bedroom that had like one bed in it. And I was the first one who was like, hey, Brad, take the big bedroom. I'll bunk with my cousin. You know what I mean? I was like, I need the big bedroom. So like, you know, we're all cut from the same atoms, as they say. But, you know, like we had talked about that too. You know, I always look at it like, as far as like how we're all kind of connected, right?
Yeah.
I always think if you take a graph paper, a box graph paper, and it's a plain box graph paper, and then I draw an image of you, and then I draw an image of me, we look separate because now there's an outline of us, right? But behind that pencil drawing, we're still a part of that grid on the graph paper. We're just the graph paper grid. So even though we're separate, and you're having your experience, I'm having my experience, and you guys out there are having your experience, we're all the same. We're all made out of the same atoms. We're all made out of the same universal source, the same consciousness, and so we're all having this collaborative experience together. And I guess it's my way of saying thank you for having me on. Thank you for your audience for, you know, indulging. I don't have all the answers, but I'm looking for them, like you guys, and I'm excited to be here to participate in any discussions to try to figure it out.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I just also want you to consider too, like where I'm coming from, where for many years, people were not so nice, and they were so, you know, you're crazy, you're on drugs, you're demonically possessed, yada, yada, yada. And people didn't want to listen, to where now I'm having this weird shift where it's like all of a sudden such amazing people are just sort of coming into my life. And it's like, oh, here's Peter. He's a really good friend of mine. You know, he's in Twilight. Oh, here's Brad. He makes movies. Oh, here's so-and-so. He's in NASA. And it's like, it's this kind of humbling thing for me that I have to remind myself, like when you're so just true to yourself, but who yourself is just such a nice person. It does more for me than you know. It's like it's almost like in a way that this is all worth it. This was all worth it, the bad and all, to know that like there's so many people out there from so many diverse fields and backgrounds that are on the same quest, that are on the same path and are into this the same, and seeking this and having this experience with us. It's like a big reality check for me. Like, no, it is all worth it. And you're not crazy. And you're actually pretty cool. And you have cool I
friends can vouch for that. You are cool, Ryan.
Well,
you got cool friends.
Well, you're cool too, man. And the guys I do the show with are cool. And I feel like I'm cool really surrounded by cool people all the time. Yeah. And that goes a long way for me. So thanks.
But like I said about your dad, with the great fortitude, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So you having that fortitude and that, like, the fearless unwavering of going, no, my dad saw what he saw, I saw what I saw, I'm going to keep going. And then you're rewarded with people going, they stop treating you like the person with the tinfoil hat, and they start really listening to what you're saying. You know what I mean? And I'm happy that shift is happened for you, and I'm happy that more people are actually open and experiencing things and seeing things, and none of us can say what they are. I mean, we have our theories, but I think one day, hopefully, we will understand a lot more.
Yeah, I agree. Well, oh my God, like I feel like that's just a beautiful spot to close. Do you guys have any?
Awesome.
Thank you words? so much for coming on, Peter. You're amazing.
Yeah, thank you guys.
It's been awesome. It was nice to meet you.
Sure. Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks so much for coming on.
My closing remarks. Okay, this is going to be slightly controversial, but strap in. I'm Team Edward.
I'm Team Jacob. I have to say, I just watched the movies. I just watched them for the first time like a month ago or a couple months ago, which was insane because 2 weeks later, after I finished, Ryan was like, "Oh, we might be meeting Carlisle from Twilight," and I was like, "What?" I just watched those movies for the first time. But yeah, Edward's a creep. Sorry, I know he's like kind of your son.
I'm gonna go with Team Carlisle.
Yeah. Well, of course,
Team Carlisle.
Absolutely,
I like that.
Hey, you know what?
Unironically, my wife and I, while we were watching, we were like, okay, there's two characters in these movies that are actually like really dope. Pascal and Carlisle. Yeah, those are the only two characters that are like.
I think Charlie's a little doper because he has the cooler mustache. And I look a little pasty, but I was always jealous of Charlie's stash.
He's got the 6'.
We were talking about this just like 2 days ago, but like the reason that Carlisle and Charlie are such good characters because it's like, I wonder what would be these perfect dad figures written in a romance setting for teenage girls to relate to. Oh yeah, Carlisle, like they're perfect. They're like the perfect, romance dads. They really are cool. Obviously, Team Carlisle.
But, Team Carlisle.
Team Cullen.
Yeah, Team Cullen.
And I'm right there. Like I feel like just go ahead and turn me, bro. Like, just get it over with.
If we could only live forever, that would be wonderful, right?
Yeah. But in all seriousness, for real, thank you, Peter. This has been a blast.
Thank you so much for having me on, guys.
We should do
it again. I'd love to do it again. Let's stay in touch and have follow-up conversations and just try to figure it all out together.
Yeah. I'd love that, man. And we're gonna have Dax on soon, like 2 or 3 weeks.
Dax will be fun. He's super fun.
All right. So our tradition is we just say bye, guys, at the same time. It's not that deep. It's just something we've been doing for hundreds of episodes. You ready?
Okay, wait. Maybe it should be because Bledsoe said so.
Let's run that. Let's run that.
Bledsoe said so. And let's say bye.
Hang on the line when we say the bye thing. So anyway. So you ready? Let's do it.
Say bye first, or Bledsoe said so.
No,
I'm gonna say why. Because Bledsoe said so. Ready? Okay, let's do it. Why? Because Bledsoe said so. Bye, guys.
What up, homies? If you like the show and want more, check out patreon.com/Bledsoe said so.
This will get you exclusive weekly bonus shows and access to our Discord community with hundreds of open-minded people just like you.
If you want to represent the show, go to bledsoesaidso.com for merch. We have t-shirts, hats, hoodies, and more.
For all future updates, follow us on Instagram at Bledsoe Said So.
Same time next week.